Ramirez. Neymar. That's Adam's error. And this is Neymar. Kept at bay by Caldwell. Leandro.
Yeah, not the place to be taking chances.
Neymar again. Set back for Lucas. Exception from that low last autumn. Scotland went very close against Spain, the best in the world. And now the most loved in the world worry them as Neymar chases to the byline and keeps it in.
And his money might have had something to do with going to Turkey, but...
Santos. And Neymar. Santos took it back. And was quick to find Neymar. And Slidden has a look to make a man of Morrison in a 1-0 win against the then reigning world champions Argentina. Brown couldn't keep it. It's a game principally for fun, and here is Neymar, who is certainly fun to watch. Ramirez. Neymar. Ramirez. Lucio. Leandro. Neymar. Came back to Ramirez. No. Alves. Neymar. Alves and Neymar. 3 sliding tackles. Santos. Neymar now from wide. Neymar nicely done. Return back heel. Didn't find his destination, so Neymar's had to go and win it back. Neymar. Santos.
Charlie Adam just trying to force it a little bit too often in there.
Neymar. Neatly through for Ramirez. On by Neymar, flags up.
I think just again, because, I mean, again, Bear's, I think, the deeper lying of all the defenders and was the closest to playing.
Forward by Ramirez, in by Santos. Here is Neymar! 1-0.
The boy is a star in the making, the boy might be a star already. And these Brazilians, what they do, they don't care if he's 16, 17, 18, 19. See if they're good.
Neymar. Here's Neymar. Good hit!
Away needlessly in that centre circle. I think just trying to overcomplicate.
That luxuriant moment soon passed. And Neymar has it back for Elano. Lucas. Neymar, lovely.
And then
Neymar. Give him the yellow shirt. Here comes Neymar. Running away from Bannon. Playing it in for Chatson. It's towed over his own crossbar by a retreating Craney.
yeah, I don't know.
And now Lucas for Neymar. Oh, he got a little nick. Neymar. Neymar on a hat-trick for Brazil. Lucas Leiva.
He's taking a shot and that just takes the risk out of it.
Neymar.
Have you ever seen a World Cup giant walk into a match carrying all the pressure in the world, while the underdog arrives with absolutely nothing to lose? Because that is exactly what makes Brazil versus Scotland one of the most fascinating matches of the FIFA World Cup 2026 group stage. On paper, this should be simple. Brazil are 5-time world champions. Scotland are a nation that spent decades dreaming about returning to football's biggest stage. Yet as this group reaches its dramatic final match day, The reality is far more complicated. Brazil sit near the top of Group C. Scotland are still alive. Morocco are still fighting. And one result could completely change the destiny of all three nations. This isn't just a football match. It's a battle between history and belief, between football royalty and football dreamers. And perhaps most surprisingly of all, it's a match that could be defined by one man making a dramatic World Cup return. A player many believed would never again be one of the tournament's biggest stories, Neymar. But we'll get to him later, because before the first whistle even blows in Miami, this match already feels like a movie. The setting couldn't be more perfect. Hard Rock Stadium, a packed crowd, thousands of Scottish supporters dressed in kilts, tens of thousands of Brazilian fans turning the stadium into a sea of yellow, two football cultures colliding under the Florida heat. And with knockout qualification on the line, every moment suddenly matters. For Scotland, simply reaching this position is already an incredible achievement. Many football fans forget just how long Scottish supporters waited for another chance to experience the World Cup. Generations grew up hearing stories about Scotland's famous teams of the past, the legends, the heartbreaks, the near misses. Now, after finally returning to the global stage, they have a genuine opportunity to reach the knockout rounds. And they've done it the Scottish way. Disciplined, hard-working, organized, unafraid. Their tournament started with a narrow victory that immediately gave fans hope. Then came a difficult defeat against Morocco, a match where one early mistake proved costly. But despite the loss, Scotland never collapsed. They stayed alive. They stayed competitive. And now everything comes down to Brazil. The challenge, of course, is obvious. Brazil are not just another opponent. They are one of the biggest names in sports history. The yellow jersey carries a weight unlike any other. When people think of World Cup football, they think of Brazil. They think of magical dribbling, beautiful goals, unforgettable moments, legends who became immortal, from Pelé to Ronaldo, from Ronaldinho to Kaká, from Rivaldo to Neymar. Brazil don't just participate in World Cups, they define them. But here's where the story becomes interesting. This Brazilian team arrived at the World Cup with more questions than answers. Their qualification campaign wasn't the dominant march fans expected. There were surprising defeats, unexpected struggles, moments where confidence appeared fragile. For perhaps the first time in years, Brazil entered a World Cup without looking completely unstoppable. That uncertainty created pressure, massive pressure, because expectations never disappear when you're Brazil. Winning is not enough. You are expected to entertain, to dominate, to inspire. Anything less feels like failure, and that's exactly why Scotland could be dangerous. The Scots understand they don't need to control possession. They don't need to play beautiful football. They simply need to frustrate Brazil. Every minute that passes without a Brazilian goal increases the pressure. Every missed chance creates doubt. Every Scottish tackle energizes their supporters. Suddenly, the favourite starts thinking. And when favourites start thinking too much, underdogs start believing. Steve Clarke knows this. His players know this. The game plan is obvious. Stay compact, stay organized, stay patient, and wait for opportunities. Scotland possess players capable of causing problems. Midfield leaders who thrive in physical battles. Experienced professionals who understand how to manage difficult moments. Players willing to sacrifice everything for the badge. That mentality alone makes them dangerous, especially in tournament football, because World Cups aren't always won by the most talented teams. Sometimes they're won by the teams that refuse to break. And Scotland have shown exactly that quality throughout the tournament. Meanwhile, Brazil face a different challenge. Not just winning convincingly. Goal difference could become important. Group positioning could become important. Momentum could become important. Everything matters. Which brings us to one of the biggest talking points surrounding this match, the possible return of Neymar. For months, football fans wondered whether the Brazilian superstar would even play a meaningful role in this World Cup. Injuries, age, fitness concerns. Questions seemed endless, but suddenly Neymar is back in training. And suddenly the football world is paying attention again. Because love him or hate him, Neymar changes everything. He changes how defenders react. He changes how teammates feel. He changes the atmosphere inside a stadium. There are very few players in world football who possess that kind of influence. And if Neymar appears against Scotland, the entire dynamic of the match could change instantly. But here's the real question. Can Neymar provide the spark Brazil have been missing? Or has Scotland arrived at exactly the right moment to create one of the biggest surprises of the tournament? Because when we return, we'll break down the tactical battle, the key players, the hidden weaknesses both teams must exploit, and the prediction that could shock football fans around the world. And trust me, the answer isn't as obvious as you think. Before the match even begins, there is one moment football fans should watch carefully: the national anthems. It sounds simple, but in World Cup football, those moments reveal everything. Watch the Brazilian players, watch the Scottish players, watch the supporters. The emotion is impossible to fake. For 90 minutes, tactics matter, skill matters, fitness matters. But before all of that, belief matters. And both teams will walk onto the field believing they can win. That belief is what makes World Cup special. Now let's talk tactics. Brazil will almost certainly dominate possession. That isn't a prediction. It's a reality. Their technical quality is simply too high. The challenge for Brazil isn't keeping the ball, it's breaking Scotland down, and that's much harder than it sounds. Scotland are expected to defend deep, protect central areas, force Brazil wide, limit space between the lines, make every attack feel frustrating. The longer they stay organized, the more uncomfortable Brazil becomes. We've seen this story before. World Cup favorites controlling possession but struggling to create clear chances. The crowd grows nervous. Players rush decisions. Mistakes appear. That's exactly the scenario Scotland wants. The first 20 minutes could determine everything. If Brazil score early, the game opens up. Scotland must attack. Spaces appear. Brazil become even more dangerous. But if Scotland survive the opening stages, the pressure shifts completely. Suddenly Brazil start wondering why the breakthrough hasn't arrived. Suddenly the underdog starts dreaming. And dreams are powerful things in football. One player Scotland will rely heavily upon is their midfield leadership. Matches like this require discipline. Every tackle matters. Every interception matters. Every second of concentration matters. Against elite opposition, one mistake can end everything. But Scotland's strength has never been individual brilliance. It's collective commitment. The willingness to suffer together, to fight together, to defend together, and that's why they remain dangerous. Brazil, meanwhile, possess game changers all over the pitch, players capable of producing moments from nothing, a clever pass, a stunning dribble, a powerful strike. One flash of brilliance can destroy an entire defensive plan. That's why opponents fear Brazil, not because they dominate every minute, but because they only need one moment. Yet there remains a fascinating criticism surrounding this team. Some analysts believe modern Brazil have become too structured, too predictable, too European in style. For decades, fans fell in love with Brazilian football because of its creativity, its freedom, its unpredictability, the samba spirit, the feeling that something magical could happen at any second. Many believe Neymar still represents that identity, even now, even after injuries, even at this stage of his career. Because Neymar plays with instinct, with confidence, with imagination. And sometimes that's exactly what tournament football requires. One moment of courage, one moment of genius, one moment nobody else sees. If Neymar plays, all eyes will follow him. Not because he's Brazil's future, but because he remains one of the sport's biggest symbols. And World Cups love symbolic moments. The veteran returning, the superstar proving doubters wrong, the hero writing one final chapter. It's the kind of storyline football fans never forget. But Scotland aren't interested in stories. They're interested in survival and perhaps something even greater, an upset. Imagine the scenes if Scotland avoid defeat. Imagine the celebrations. Imagine the headlines. A nation that waited decades to return to the World Cup suddenly standing toe-to-toe with Brazil. Those are the moments supporters tell their grandchildren about. That's why this match matters. Not just because of qualification, but because of what it represents. Hope, pride, dreams, history. Everything football should be. So who wins? Brazil remain the favorites. Their quality is undeniable. Their attacking talent is superior, and their experience in these moments cannot be ignored. But this doesn't feel like a comfortable victory. Scotland have already shown resilience throughout the tournament. They know exactly how they want to play. They know exactly how to frustrate opponents, and they understand the pressure is almost entirely on Brazil. That combination makes them extremely dangerous. The most likely outcome may still be a Brazilian victory. But if Scotland can survive the early storm, anything becomes possible. And that's the beauty of the World Cup. The gap between giants and underdogs is never as large as it seems. Because football isn't played on paper, it's played on grass, under pressure, in front of millions, where belief can overcome reputation, where courage can challenge greatness, and where 90 minutes can change history forever. When Brazil and Scotland step onto that field in Miami, only one thing is guaranteed. The world will be watching. And by the final whistle, somebody's dream will be alive, while somebody else's World Cup journey could be hanging by a thread. That is the magic of football, and that is why we simply cannot look away.